Hey class, today we're going to continue on with our nerves, and we're going to specifically focus on spinal nerves. So we have nerves that come out of your brain, which is your cranial nerves, and now spinal nerves, these originate from your spinal cord. And there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Now, something special about spinal nerves is that they are formed by combining the ventral and dorsal roots of the spinal cord that we've learned about, and they are named for the region of the spinal cord from which they arise. So remember when we were learning about vertebrae, we learned about 4 major regions. We learned about your cervical vertebrae, which is more towards your neck. We have your thoracic vertebrae, is more that goes to your chest. We have your lumbar, which is your lower back. And the last type is your sacral, which goes to your sacrum and eventually down to your lower legs. So again, here, this is a picture that shows all of the different spinal nerves that can come off of it. Here you have your cervical nerves, your thoracic nerves, your lumbar, and your sacral nerves. One thing I do want to point out is that here, I want you to notice up here in the cervical nerves, there's a big cluster of spinal nerves together. We're going to learn that these are called plexuses. Even down here in you have your plexus as well. Notice, though, that your thoracic has no plexuses. They're all pretty straight that go exactly where they need to go. Then when you get down here in your lumbar region, we have some more plexuses. So here you form your lumbar plexus. And then even down here, you have your sacral plexuses that go down into your leg. So we're going to learn that plexuses are just bundles of spinal nerves and that they're found in all of the regions except for thoracic. Okay. So spinal nerves, when they leave that spinal cord, they divide into dorsal and ventral ramus. So ramus, if I say plural, is rami. This is just a branch of a spinal nerve that contains both sensory and motor fibers. Dorsal rami like to serve your skin and your muscles of your posterior trunk. So posterior is going to be your back. The ventral rami form your intercostal nerves, and they supply to muscles of the skin and ribs of your anterior and lateral trunk, so your front and your side. Now, these are ventral rami from T1 to T2, or 12. The T stands for thoracic. So these is going to go to your intercostal nerves, the things that go into your heart and your lungs, the nerves that control those muscles, because you have intercostal muscles that help you breathe. Then you have ventral rami, and these are all the ones except T1 and T12, and these form nerve plexuses in those limbs. So these are the ones that we're going to see in the cervical area. Again, your lumbar and your sacral. So except your thoracic. Now, any damage to a spinal nerve or the rami that divides off of that can cause loss of sensation and can actually cause paralysis to any of the area of the body that they serve. So you don't want to damage these nerves. Okay. So here's what's going to show you the spinal cord. Here is your ventral root that combine, and here is your dorsal root, and they combine to briefly, right here, form your spinal nerve. Right after your spinal nerve forms, it divides almost immediately into your dorsal ramus and your ventral ramus that go to serve different parts of your body. Okay. So remember, these plexus, these is defined as network of nerves. Again, they have motor and sensory needs. These form from your ventral rami, and they only form in your cervical, lumbar, and sacral regions, not your thoracic. So there are actually 4 major plexuses: cervical, brachial, lumbar, and your sacral plexus. This kind of illustrates the major plexuses and the important nerves that you can find and where these originate from. So here, your cervical plexus is from your cervical 1 vertebrae to your 5th cervical vertebrae. And the most important nerve here is your phrenic nerve. This serves your diaphragm, your skin and muscles of your shoulder and neck. Then you go down to your brachial, which is the 5th cervical vertebrae to the 8th cervical vertebrae. And it includes the 1st thoracic and only the 1st thoracic, because remember, the ones excluded are T2 through T12. Here, the important ones are axillary, radial, median, muscular, cutaneous, and ulnar. If we're going to talk about the body area served, axillary, which is up by your armpit, does your deltoid muscle and skin of your superior thorax, so your upper thorax. So that's going to be like near your collarbone and upper chest. Radial, think of your radial bone that's connected to your thumb. Here they control triceps. They extend muscles in your forearm, so they allow you to straighten your forearm. And then here, skin of posterior upper limb, so the back of your upper limb. You have your median, so this helps you flex muscles of the forearm, so lets you bring them closer. And it does control some muscles in the hand. Muscular cutaneous, this flexor arm muscles as well as the median. However, this controls skin of the lateral forearm, so the side of your forearm. And the last one you have is ulnar. These do allow you to flex your forearm some, but it's mostly used for your wrist and hand muscles and skin within your hand. So can you spread your fingers apart? So here are your major ones within these areas. You have your brachial plexus, you have your radial nerve, your muscular cutaneous nerve that runs over here, your ulnar nerve, your median nerve, and even up here you have your axillary nerve. The next two that we're going to talk about is your lumbar. So lumbar runs from the 1st lumbar vertebrae to the 4th lumbar vertebrae. And important ones these include is your femoral and your obturator. Your femoral controls your lower abdomen as well as your anterior and medial thigh muscles. So here your thigh muscles, your thigh is your upper leg. This allows for hip flexors and knee extenders. So it lets you straighten out your knee and then pull your leg up so you can flex your hip. This also controls skin on your leg and thigh. So here you can extend leg and flex hip. The obturator, this is adductor muscle. So adductor, remember, means comes close together of your medial thigh and small hip muscles. So this is bringing things closer to the body. And this also controls skin of the medial thigh or the inside of your thigh and hip joint. So here the most important one here is you have your obturator and then you have your femoral. And the last one we're going to talk about is your sacral, which originates from your 4th lumbar vertebrae to your 5th lumbar vertebrae, and from your 1st sacral to your 4th sacral vertebrae. The most important one that you're going to hear most people talk about, and the most infamous one, is your sciatic nerve. It's actually one of the longest nerves in your body, and it actually splits into your fibular and tibial nerves right above your knee in order to support your lower leg. So largest nerve. It controls your lower trunk and posterior surface of your thigh, so it allows you to extend your hip or sit upright and flex your knee, so bend your knee. Usually, if you have issues with the sciatic nerve, you have a lot of lower back pain. They like to call this sciatica. Okay. The common fibular and tibial, they're going to go to different aspects of your leg and foot. Fibular is going to go lateral since that bone and that nerve runs more lateral. And tibial is going to be more posterior. Here, the last one we're going to talk about is your superior and inferior gluteal nerve. Again, this is going to go to your butt muscles of your hip and allows you to extend the hip or abduct and medially rotate your thigh. So here is a good picture. Here you have your superior and inferior glute. So again, it goes to your butt muscles. Here's your huge sciatic nerve. And then even here, once you get down to the knee, it splits into your fibular and tibial nerve. And you even got more down there if you want to even go look at that. So that's the end of today's lesson. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be more than happy to help. And I hope you guys have a good day.